Yep, I'm getting my money's worth out of the recordings I did for this game, and you know what? I felt like bringing this game up again because, well, it's an oddity. This is X-Files: Resist or Serve, which came out nearly 3 years after anything from X-Files was done airing. But, yeah, it just came out. There was also a mobile game that came out at around this time. And, like, even the movie was long done by the time this happened. Like, this was well past Mulder X-Files, but it just is. X-Files: Resist or Serve is a game that is very reminiscent of the Resident Evil franchise, which we'll get into later, but is something of a love letter to anyone who enjoys the series. It kind of plays itself as if it was a 3-part season finale. In fact, the episodes, as they call it, are literally titled like 7x something 3 consecutive numbers. I can't bother to look at it while I record. And you do play as both Mulder and Scully going through this adventure, which I will get to in a second about its score. Alright, so that was a good second. So basically, I had originally given this game about a 7 out of 10 because I was scoring it without any context, but then I looked back at my other video I did about X-Files video games and remembered that this game is basically a beat-for-beat rehashing of the original Resident Evil game, and I was also told by some commenters that the later chapters in this game are very, very similar to Resident Evil Code Veronica, and I think I'm going to set a new precedent here. If I have any reason to believe that you even might have plagiarized anything, or something is so uncannily similar that you have to consider that, like, hey, this is kind of questionable, you don't get any points for plot. So X-Files: Resist or Serve doesn't get any points for plot because it's just too similar to the plot of Resident Evil for me to consider that just like excusable neglect. It does, however, get full points for its world building because everything in this game is a love letter to fans of X-Files. All the streets are named after episodes in the series, and all the movie posters are callbacks to the original shows. Everything in this game is some little Easter egg or nod to the X-Files series, and I'm really impressed at how well they wrapped everything together. So there it gets full points. I'm really disappointed about the plot, and this is kind of a hard thing to wrap your head around because given the amount of work that goes into designing a game, it is very hard to out and out completely rip something off without having the styles be distinct. But it's just the plot lines between this game and the earlier Resident Evil entries are just too similar for me to ignore it. Going by the same precedent that I just set, it would have not gotten any points for gameplay either, but it didn't really earn any points in the gameplay department anyway, as we're about to find out. As far as the looks and graphics of this game goes, it gets a 6 out of 10 because it looks okay. Like, that's the best way I can sum it up. Is it's not groundbreaking. This did come out pretty late in the PlayStation 2's life cycle, but it is nothing that like deserves overt praise. It's passable, but it is not good. That's the best way I can put it. Like, the cinematics look nice, everyone's mouth moves properly, things look like they should. The actual gameplay, it's really dark a lot of the time, which allows them to get away with maybe some more high fidelity stuff, but it looks okay. As for aesthetic, 2 out of 10, because everything's dark, there's no real color palette or theme. It again is basically just a Resident Evil knockoff. It has no unique look outside of the fact that everything is X-Files themed, which I wouldn't consider that a unique look or aesthetic. That's just playing to your base and hoping nobody notices that you're basically playing Resident Evil. Sound design, 5 out of 10. The soundtrack is just crap. It's really jarring. There's just a lot of obnoxious cymbal noises, which I don't want to play any of the soundtrack as an example because I get the feeling that Fox is just gonna smack me with a copyright, like a content ID. But just take my word for it, it's really bad, it's really obnoxious, and I also do not want to give it any points for sound because during the demo of the game, like when the menu is like, back in the day, you remember when, like, if you'd let the game just sort of sit at the start screen menu, it'd start to like play music and do gameplay demos. This game does that, and it just goes just short enough to where the full X-Files theme never plays. However, towards the end of the game, it plays on loop with this really poor looping. Like there's this awkward second and a half of silence every time the X-Files theme loop plays, and it's not even at a point where I consider very appropriate for them to be looping the sound of the theme. It's just, maybe if you had done that at the absolute end, that would have been cool, but like the point they do it in, it just makes no sense, and it just gets annoying. Which, that's the best way to describe how this game's sound is. It's annoying. The only good thing about this is they got all the original actors from the show to reprise their roles for this game. David Duchovny's there, Gillian Anderson is there, Mitch Pileggi's there, everyone's there, and that's really good. But other than that, this game's sound is trash. Now, how about core gameplay? Well, let me make it short for you. 0 out of 10. This game, it's like, imagine everything bad about the original Resident Evil game's gameplay and multiply it by 10, and you have the approximate gameplay feel of X-Files Resist or Serve. The controls are terrible, you will need lock-on if you want to hit anything, and even then, you've got 50-50 odds of actually connecting, and you will overtly need to exploit this game if you want to get farther. It's basically, unless you want to like save scum or use cheat codes, you're going to have to just stun lock people with kicks because the game doesn't do ammo distribution right, and the damage is just off. Like, seriously, there are points where you can kick someone on the ground for like 10 minutes straight just in a stun lock loop, and nothing will happen. So you just have to truck it out and hope eventually they'll die. And that's just no fun. If anything, this game probably would have been a lot more memorable if they had tried at least to make it somewhat not like a bad Resident Evil game. But I guess the guys at Vivendi had a deadline or something, because not much effort was put in there. As for player character handling, I originally put 5 out of 10, but that feels too generous. The menus are weird, nothing makes sense, the player character does not do what you want them to do ever, whether it be Mulder or Scully, and you will frequently find yourself running around in literal circles because of how the camera angles work with that fixed camera perspective that only works if you are very careful about your room placement, otherwise things get wonky. In fact, it often does this thing where it will continue the approximate direction you were running in, like when you change scenes. However, the second you slightly adjust the joystick, you'll instantly turn and end up walking out of the room back into the other scene, and you'll keep on doing that until you're running in circles for like 5 minutes. This happened to me so much during my playthrough, I'm willing to bet that at least a quarter of the actual gameplay that I recorded was me accidentally running in and out of rooms because of how the camera works. Diversity of gameplay is in how you can do things and if there are any interesting modifiers to shake things up gets a 4 out of 10, which again feels too generous, but this is why I have the criteria, and I only will add points or remove points for very special circumstances, like say plagiarizing your plot. You're basically just get the strongest gun and kick people a lot. You can form Molotov cocktails in this game, but it's so elaborate of a process to use them and get them that you are likely, unless you read a walkthrough several times over, you will never have any sort of firebomb. You're just going to have your pistol and whatever they give you, usually an AK-47 that apparently some granny in a post office had, and there's often a shotgun or something. But other than that, it's just shoot, kick, repeat. Occasionally heal. As far as the two quality of life categories goes, in optimization, X-Files Resist or Serve gets a 7 out of 10. It is a console game, which usually helps things a lot, especially in older console games where people had an idea of what they were doing and didn't make games with the intention of, oh, we'll patch this out later. But it still hiccups a bit, it still chugs on occasion when stuff gets intense, and the levels sometimes take a minute to load. So it's good, especially comparing to some modern releases we have. However, it could be better. Stability, 10 out of 10. It doesn't crash, it doesn't completely freeze, it handles its own assets, and that is all I ask of a game for the stability category. Can you do that? Can you function on your own accord? And this game does. Final notes, this game gets a 49 out of 100, which I feel is about fair. If this game did not have the X-Files name, there'd be almost no redeeming qualities to it. In fact, there would be no redeeming qualities to it. This game is basically X-Files fan service. Like, even the Steven Universe game had some redeeming qualities and you could see yourself enjoying it even if you were kind of confused by the plot and the setting. This game, however, you're just going to sit there thinking, wow, this is just a really bad Resident Evil ripoff. I really wish I had nicer things to say, and I keep on holding out for the rumors that they were eventually going to make a new X-Files game, possibly set during the X-Files' prime, like say mid to late season 6 and 7. Or you know what, I'd even be happy with like an X-Files series that took place between X-Files 2 and 3, because those were the crazy good seasons. But alas, rumors are only rumors right now, and I won't believe anything until I see it. So who knows, maybe E3 2019 we're gonna see something about this. I don't know who would be making this game, but alas, did I just say but alas? This video's over. I can't recover from that.
Hey. Hey. Can I have my sweater back? Can I have my sweater back? Can I have my sweater back? Would you give it back for a scritch? Oh, that is an enjoyable scritch. Oh yes, that is the most delightful of chin scritchies. But can I have my sweater back? This is my work sweater. I'm just gonna hold on to that. There's this perfectly good blanket right here. Isn't the blanket just as good as the sweater, if not better? Yes, I know it doesn't have all those daddy... Okay. I know the blanket does not have all of the daddy smells. But you can get all the daddy smells you want just by sniffing daddy. Oh, who is that? Is that Mommy? Oh, Mommy's home! Mommy's home!